Hi, it's Dr. Z here to talk about perspectives in psychology in Chapter 1. By the end of this video, you'll be able to describe the 7 perspectives of psychology and apply one or more of the perspectives to the case study of Pat for discussion board number 1. So let's get started. These are the 7 modern perspectives in psychology. We'll get started with the first one, behavioral. The 2 individuals that you should really associate with behavioralism is John B. Watson and B. F. Skinner. The B stands for behavior. No, just kidding, but it's a handy way to remember that these 2 individuals have to do with behaviorism. So let's talk about Watson. Watson was tired with structuralism and functionalism. He wanted psychology to be more scientific, and this wanted it to focus on what was observable and measurable, like behavior. And so behavioral perspective focuses on the study of behavior that's objective, and as well as the role in the environment. From a behavioral perspective, it is the environment that dictates behavior. So whatever's going on in a person's environment will influence their behavior. From that perspective, we go to psychoanalytic. And from psychoanalytic, you need to associate Sigmund Freud and psychoanalysis. Your textbook shared that Sigmund Freud was not a psychologist. He was a medical doctor, a neurologist in fact, who specializes in disorders of the nervous system. His patients suffered from nervous disorders that had no physical cause. Thus he explored whether the cause must be in the mind. In this case, he believed the unconscious is the primary focus. This photo here is of an iceberg. In an iceberg, only 10% of its volume is above the water. The remaining 90% is hidden underwater in the dark, deep recesses of the sea. And that is your mind. We only get to see 10% of your mind. The remaining 90% is hidden deep, dark inside. And he believed those are the unconscious repressed urges that we have, that we hide from other people. He also felt that the role of early childhood experiences really dictate who we become as adults. From the ages of 0 to 5 or 0 to 6 years old, whatever happens during these ages dictates who you'll become as an adult, no matter what happens as you become an adult. So from a psychoanalytic perspective, he focuses on the unconscious and the role of early childhood experiences. From psychoanalytic, we go to humanist. Humanistic psychology went beyond psychoanalytic and felt, you know what? There's more to just limiting ourselves to what happened between 0 and 6 years old. So Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers are the 2 names you should associate with humanistic. Humanists believe that people are innately good, that there's no evil, that we all try to be good from the beginning, and that humanists believe that people have free will or choice, that we're unique and we have the capacity for choice. There's no 2 people out there, even twins aren't alike, and so therefore you choose, you have the free will to do what you want. So in this case, you can choose whether to take the red pill or the blue pill, like in the movie The Matrix, but no one is forcing you into choosing. From a humanist perspective, the cognitive psychologist next said, well, I want to focus a little bit more on how people think, how people remember, how people store and use information. So for cognitive psychologists, or the cognitive perspective, humans are active in their environment. And what do I mean by active? We don't just sit there and let things happen to us. We actually interact and engage in our environment to learn more. And then we use these mental processes, such as thinking, problem solving, decision making, to transform and understand that information. There's this great study done in 1979 that's been replicated since. They did this study with newborns. During the first 10 minutes that they were born, they stuck their tongue out. They had an adult stick their tongue out at a baby. And what do you think the baby did in return? Well, guess what? The baby stuck their tongue out. Now, remember, this is the first 10 minutes that a baby is born. They've never seen a tongue. They probably don't even realize they have their own tongue. And yet they saw someone else stick out their tongue, and then they stuck their tongue out themselves. So in this case, humans are active in their environment trying to understand the world around them. And so cognitive perspective studies memory, problem solving, decision making, and language. From the cognitive perspective, we'll go to evolutionary. And the root word of evolutionary is evolution, so we're going to work on adaptation here. How human behaviors required for survival have adapted in the face of environmental pressures in evolution. And because it's evolutionary, it is influenced by the work of Darwin. Now, what do I mean by human behaviors required for survival? Well, let's think. Why do we run away from something scary? Well, we run away from something scary to live. So if the first caveman or cavewoman didn't run away from that saber-toothed tiger to survive, guess what? We wouldn't know to be scared because that person died. So there's so many different things that our behaviors are adapted to, and we've just continued to do them over and over again. Our second to last one is biopsychological. In biopsychological, we're talking about bio or biology. We're studying the biological basis of behavior and mental processes. So what does that mean? That means we're focusing on hormones, heredity like your genes, and brain chemicals like neurotransmitters. And what we're really looking at is how those hormones and chemicals impact your functions like eating and emotions. So for example, what do you eat when you're feeling sad or depressed? If you think about it for a minute, you're probably thinking about sweets, chocolate, chips, and fries. Well, guess what? Our body craves food that makes us feel better, right? And those better foods, I'm not saying that desserts is better, but I'm saying these foods have chemicals, specifically neurotransmitters that we'll talk about in Chapter 2, that our body is craving and are missing to create stability. And then our last one is sociocultural. If you break down sociocultural, we're talking about society and culture. So the importance of our social and cultural influences on our behavior, and most importantly, how we then interpret others' behaviors. For example, my family growing up, our conversations always were very orderly, we take turns, and we apologize for interrupting. Well, my spouse's family, not so much. They interrupt each other all the time, they raise their voices, and the loudest always wins. So knowing that, how do you think my first visit to his family was for dinner? Needless to say, it was awkward. I was confused. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Likewise, let's take a step back. What do you think my spouse's first visit to my family was for dinner? Guess what? Equally awkward. This is weird. What are they doing? They're not interrupting each other. So it's important to understand the cultural influence for interpretation, because we often interpret others' behaviors when different from ours as abnormal, when in reality, guess what? That abnormal behavior is normal for them. So that's our 7 perspectives. So let's wrap it up by bringing it back to discussion board number 1 with case study of Pat. You'll be assigned one psychological perspective, and you'll put yourself in the role of the psychologist from that perspective. Pat is a freshman at your college. Pat has been drinking a lot lately. There is some concern that Pat may be an alcoholic. Your job is to generate a fictional scenario about a paragraph long from the point of view of your assigned perspective. You can get creative. Give me fictional age, gender, race, childhood history, whatever other information about Pat, and then offer a possible explanation for Pat's drinking issue. You're going to try to explain Pat's behavior from your perspective alone, without using the other perspectives. There are no right or wrong answers. I look forward to reading your discussion board.